Today's topic is the source, the science, and the signs of real devotion. And we can see this all exemplified in the relationship between Sri Ramakrishna and Naren, the future Vivekananda. What is the source of devotion? Sri Ramakrishna said, at particular times, certain types of monks would gather here at Dakshineshwar in large numbers. Once the great Paramahamsa sannyasins began to come, they were not like vagabond mendicants looking for food. When during their discussions they couldn't resolve a question, Sri Ramakrishna had to become the umpire and to decide for it. The Vedanta rishis talked of Brahman, and the room reverberated with sounds of their discussions on the Vedic dictums. Neti, neti, not this, not this. Brahman alone exists. This world is unreal. Satchidananda, Brahman is existence, knowledge, bliss, absolute. Ayamatma Brahma, the self is verily Brahman. Asti Bhakti Priya. Asti, it is. Bhakti, shines. Priyam, it is blissful. Sri Ramakrishna asked, do you know what Asti Bhakti Priya is? It's the true nature of Brahman. Vedanta explains it this way. Whatever truly exists manifests itself. That is Sat, existence. Sri Ramakrishna continued, this manifestation is the nature of knowledge. Chid is knowledge, the consciousness that contains all knowledge. He said the thing that we know becomes manifest to us, and the thing that we do not know remains unmanifest. Isn't this true? So, he continued, Vedanta says that whenever we are conscious of an object's existence, whenever you and I are conscious of something out there, that object is simultaneously revealed along with our consciousness of it. In other words, we become conscious of its nature as knowledge. The truth is, we are aware of everything through our consciousness. I see everything outside myself, but within my own consciousness. You also. The analogy is given, it's like looking through spectacles. Looking through our spectacles before the object. Unknowingly, we first see the spectacles before we see this world. Without them, we see nothing. No objects outside of ourselves remain absorbed in our own consciousness. We become conscious of the perceived object's existence, revealed and thus perceived through our consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna said, and forthwith we feel it as dear. That is, its blissful nature arouses a feeling of love within us and causes us to love it. He goes on. Thus, whenever we are conscious of existence, we are also conscious of knowledge and bliss. Therefore, he said, what is existence is also knowledge and also bliss. What is knowledge is also existence and bliss. And what is bliss is also existence and knowledge. So in conclusion, Sri Ramakrishna said, this world, the objects within it, and all beings have their source. And the true nature of that Brahman is Asti Bhakti Priya, or Satchida Ananda. So how does this experience manifest outwardly in an illumined soul. Sarvam kalpitam Brahma, neha nasti kanchana. All this is Brahman. There is no diversity in it. So says the Chandogya Upanishad and the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Sri Ramakrishna told us, once a monk came with a beautiful glow on his face. He often remained seated in one place, just smiling. In the morning and evening, he would come out of his room and look around, seeing the trees, the bushes, the sky, the Ganges. He would raise his arms and dance with joy. Sometimes he would roll on the ground, laughing and exclaiming, "Bravo, what fun! How wonderful it is, this Maya! What an illusion God has conjured up." This was his way of worship, Sri Ramakrishna explained. He had attained the bliss of God. Another monk came, drunk with knowledge, naked with long hair. He stood in front of the Kali temple and fixed his eyes on the mother. Sri Ramakrishna explained. He recited a hymn with such power that it seemed to me the whole temple shook. And mother looked pleased and smiled, mother meaning Mother Kali. Beggars drove him away, so he ate with the dogs. Sri Ramakrishna recognized this state and became frightened that he too would end up like this monk. So to Pritoi, he said, "This is not ordinary madness. He is mad with the highest manifestation, the highest consciousness of God." Pritoi ran after him. "Maharaj, teach me how I can realize God." The monk pointed to the gutter and he said, "When that water and the water of the Ganges seem to be the same and equally pure to you, then you'll realize God." I also had the blessed fortune to behold such a person during my 1979 pilgrimage to India. I was with two sisters, one a sannyasini and one also a brahmacharini. And we had also heard of this woman beforehand from Swami Sridharananda, who was then in Lucknow, and other swamis in our order. She was called the Brahmani of Kanyakumari. She had reached that state of perfection, an ecstatic knower of Brahman. We happened to be standing in the temple compound of Kanyakumari, and I felt her presence before I even saw her. Suddenly there was a vortex of power, a thunderous spiritual atmosphere as she, hair disheveled, in tattered sari, suddenly appeared and walked past us, followed by children and dogs. An ecstatic knower of Brahman. We were told she sometimes floated on her back in the confluence of the Arabian Sea, the Indian Ocean, and the Bay of Bengal, where they met, and silently and alone, she floated, experiencing Brahman within and without, Brahman immanent and transcendent, asti bhakti priyam. Such knowledge is the transcendental experience of existence and also bliss. The Brahmani was living and experiencing the example of knowledge that Sri Ramakrishna also gave when he took M to Bulgaria and pointed out the tame fish in the lake. And as visitors threw puffed rice, the fish came in swarms. And he said, "Look at the fish," he told M. "Meditating on the formless God is like swimming joyfully like these fish in the ocean of bliss and consciousness." Sri Ramakrishna explained, take the case of the infinite ocean
There is no limit to its water. Suppose a pot is immersed in it. There is water both inside and outside the pot. The jnani sees both inside and outside that there is nothing but Paramatman. Then what is the pot? It is I consciousness. Because of the pot, the water appears to be divided into two parts. Because of the pot, you seem to perceive an inside and an outside. One feels that way as long as this pot of I exists. When the I disappears, what is remains. That cannot be described in words. So, what are some other ways within our Vedanta tradition this experience has been seen to manifest inwardly? Miss Waldo was distantly related to Ralph Waldo Emerson. She took notes of Vivekananda's inspired talks that he gave at Thousand Island Park. She edited Vivekananda's New York lectures and classes and his Raja Yoga. She met many spiritual teachers, and most of them felt short. In her reminiscences in 1894, she was with Vivekananda in a New York drawing room with high folding doors at one end, two large windows at the other end, and in between a mirror from floor to ceiling. She wrote, "This mirror seemed to fascinate the Swami. He stood before it again and again, gazing at himself intently. In between, he walked up and down the room, lost in thought. Miss Waldo's eyes followed him anxiously. Now the bubble is going to burst, she thought. He is full of personal vanity." Suddenly, Vivekananda turned to Miss Waldo and said, "Ellen, it is the strangest thing. I cannot remember how I look. I look and look at myself in the glass, but the moment I turn away, I forget completely what I look like." Paramahamsa means the embodiment of pure consciousness. In the Mundaka Upanishad, the 3rd chapter, 2nd section, verse 5, we read, "Having realized the Atman, the seers are filled with that knowledge, that joy. Their souls are established in the Supreme Self. They are free from passion and tranquil of mind. Realizing everywhere the all-pervading Brahman, deeply absorbed in the contemplation of his being, they enter into him, the self of all." Shankara explains, just as water inside a pot, immersed in the ocean, becomes one with the water of the ocean when the pot is broken, so during moksha, elements of body and mind go back to their source, and the Atman becomes one with Brahman, just as rivers lose their name and form once they enter the ocean. So returning from Nirvikalpa Samadhi, Vivekananda and Sardadevi both were seen to cry out, "Where is my body?" Their consciousness had entered into the ocean. At Kasipur, Narayan was at first conscious only of his head. His body seemed lost. Gopal looked at Narayan's rigid body lying prostrate. "Why, Narayan, there it is. It is there." He then rushed to Sri Ramakrishna for help. Sarada Devi was motionless in meditation at Nilambar Babu Mukherjee's house near Belar Mat with Yogin Ma and Golap Ma, her attendants. "Oh, Yogin," she cried out, Where are my hands and feet? Yoganma had to press her limbs and direct her attention toward them in a loud voice. But Sarada Devi regained consciousness of the whole body only after a long time. So what happens after this experience? Seers move in the world like fish swimming in the ocean of bliss. They perceive themselves as the Atman, and therefore all without as Brahman. Can you imagine being in such a presence of such a soul, to be seen as Brahman? They live and move and have their being in a realm beyond name and form, beyond the clay boundaries of body and mind. One night, Hridoy saw Sri Ramakrishna go to the Panchavati in Dakshineshwar, and he followed with a water pot and towel. Hridoy saw Sri Ramakrishna not as an ordinary human being, not composed of flesh and blood. And the Panchavati was illuminated by the light coming out of his body. As Sri Ramakrishna walked, his feet were made of light. They didn't touch the ground. They carried him through the air. Hridoy rubbed his eyes and saw all trees, all the creepers, the Ganges, the hut were normal, but Sri Ramakrishna's form was luminous. He looked at his own body and saw an effulgent being made of light, an attendant and companion of God himself, serving him eternally, part and parcel of his divine person and solidified spiritual luminosity, now having a separate existence for the sole purpose of serving him. Suddenly, Hridoy, a simple man, understood the mystery of his own life and was filled with a current of bliss. He forgot himself, forgot the world, forgot what people would think, and he became ecstatic like one mad. "Oh, Ramakrishna, we are not mortal beings," he cried out. "Why are we here? Come, let us go from country to country and set souls free, free from bondage. I am also what you are." Sri Ramakrishna then rebuked him. Stop, stop. Why on earth are you behaving like this? People will run thinking some calamity has befallen us. The avatar's body is a thin line of demarcation where matter ends and spirit begins. In the Gnostic Gospels, we read in the Acts of John, Jesus was not a human being at all. Instead, he was a spiritual being who adapted himself to human perception. He appeared to James and John on the shore. To James, Jesus appeared as a child, standing on the shore. To John, "Do you not see the man standing there who is handsome, fair, and cheerful looking?" Both went ashore. John said, "Sometimes when I meant to touch him, I encountered a material solid body, but at other times again, when I felt him, his substance was immaterial and incorporeal, as if he did not exist at all." In the Uttara Gita, after illumination, we read that one realizes the Paramatman dwells in place, person, or thing to which one's mind is drawn. What then is the science of devotion? It lies in unlocking the mystery behind the form. Just as Sri Ramakrishna unlocked the mystery behind the basalt image of Mother Kali and the stone form of Ramlala. During M's second visit, M was a recorder of the Gospel of Ramakrishna. He said, suppose one believes in God with form. Certainly he is not the clay image. This was M. Ramakrishna replied, but why clay? It's an image of spirit. So how then do we explain the image? That it plays, talks, eats? M asked. Sri Ramakrishna said, it was not my imagination. I actually saw Ramlala as I see you. Even the direct disciples listened with disbelief to what the master was saying. In the Manu Samhita, in 149, we read, consciousness exists even in insentient things like trees and stones, and they experience happiness and misery also. John Muir was an ecstatic nature mystic. He lived from 1838 to 1914. He was Scottish American. He was a naturalist. He founded the Sierra Club. His activism is what saved Yosemite Sequoia National Park. He recorded and sketched plants, climbed mountains, hiked Indian trails. He built a small cabin with a stream that flowed through it and enjoyed the sound of the running water. He had a conversion experience. He wrote, we are now in the mountains and they are in us, kindling enthusiasm, making every nerve quiver, filling every pore and cell of us. Our flesh and bone tabernacle seems transparent as glass to the beauty about us, as if truly an inseparable part of it, thrilling with the air and trees, streams and rock, in the waves of the sun, a part of all nature, immortal. In his ecstasies, he experienced the presence of the divine in nature. During an earthquake in 1872, near Lone Pine, he felt the Yosemite Valley. It woke Muir. He ran out of the cabin, both glad and frightened. A noble earthquake, he proclaimed. During a thunderstorm, he climbed a tree to feel how a tree might feel the wind, the power of nature, the power of Prakriti. What were his sensory perceptions? Light. The mountain skies seemed painted with light, he wrote. They symbolized divinity. The Sierras, he wrote, along the eastern margin of the Great Valley of California rises the mighty Sierra, so luminous, it seems to be not clothed with light, but wholly composed of it, like the wall of some celestial city. Jean Carr, Muir's mentor, wrote, I have often in my heart wondered what God was training you for. He gave you, meaning Muir, the eye within the eye, to see in all natural objects the realized ideas of his, meaning God's, mind. Through purification of the mind, this divine eye opens. The divine eye within each of us. Swami Vivekananda said, blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. This sentence alone, he said, would save mankind if all books and prophets were lost. This purity of heart will bring the vision of God. So what is this purity? It's letting go of the noise of the mind, the contents of consciousness that lie to us. I am a man, I am a woman, I'm tall or short, smart or stupid, I have a personal history. Swami Vivekananda said, purity is the theme of the whole music of the universe. Impurity is no bondage. Remove, he said, the veils of ignorance by purity. Then we manifest ourselves as we really are and know that we were never in bondage. He said, the seeing of many is the great sin of all the world. See all, he said, as the self, and love all. Let all idea of separateness go. So how to do this? The Yoga Sutras tell us to calm the lake of the mind. The Purusha, the Atman, is the lake bottom. The lake itself is the Chitta, the mind stuff, the personality, what we call our being. Like a vessel of water that's colorless, odorless, without shape, it takes the shape of the vessel that contains it. In our case, our psyche. Any sense perception, thought, emotion, leaves a vritti, a ripple as it were, in the mind. This vritti literally means whirlpool. And these whirlpools or thought waves stir the surface waters. They muddy it, and they send out ripples that are electrically charged, that refract and reflect the non-Atman. And they conceal the lake bottom, which is the Atman. So the mind takes the form of any object that comes into its line of vision or memory. We be and become that. We think, and what we think, that we become. Thought holds the object in the mind, and the more we think of the object, we saturate ourselves with that idea. Just as when salt dissolves in water, but retains a salty taste, so our thoughts can flavor the mind with joy and calmness or anger, anxiety, greed, or triviality. If that process is the source of our bondage, our teachers tell us, why not adapt this natural mental process to our advantage? Try to hook the mind to an object, the same as your true nature. Concentrate on that object. Let it saturate the mind and slowly try to be and become that. With concentration and willpower, we can make that our habit to transform ourselves. What is concentration? When we only allow those vrittis, those thought waves to form that are logical, rational, spiritual, and systematically plant them in the mind, we become involved with those ideas to such an extent, the vrittis become diminished to one. When that happens, we lose a sense of time and space. Why? Because the time concept exists within change, with change. We lose the concept of time based on the concept of limited change, one vritti only. And in that, we lose the sense of I and mine. Only our heart's beloved remains. We be and become one with our chosen ideal. Unless we concentrate, the object won't unfold its mystery, its Shakti, which it holds within itself. But with penetrative attention, so one-pointed, it will pierce through the covering of ignorance of the object. That is when we have the vision. Jnana and Shakti are synonymous. As soon as we know, the object reveals its Shakti. With the word God, a particular form automatically comes to the mind that appeals to me, to you. The word God explodes, as it were, into certain ideas: omniscience, omnipresence, compassion. Then the word itself disappears, and a luminous array of ideas emanate from it with an affinity to a particular form of God. Its rupa, its form, along with its nama, name, leads us into the domain of ideas, the subtle domain. We keep trying to concentrate our attention on the word, such as Kali, Kali, Kali. And finally, the word will explode with the idea and break away the mystery that surrounds it, and we become aware of the mystery behind the word Kali. Sri Ramakrishna's concentration was so one-pointed on God. Many things were symbols to him of God and would send him into ecstasy. The word karana, wine, reminded him of the wine of divine bliss. The word prostitute reminded him of the Divine Mother. With the sight of a boy standing with legs crossed by a tree, Tribanga, and his mind would merge in Sri Krishna playing the flute. When we come to that stage where we're able to merge our mind in concentration, that experience transforms our whole personality. It yields certain knowledge or understanding beyond the normal domain of sense perception. Yearning. Yearning is the binding agent that binds the mind to our chosen ideal. What is needed is intensity to fuel and focus our concentration. Swami Shivananda, direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, explained, once you have the yearning in your mind, success is near at hand. This takes patience and practice to cultivate and deepen. It doesn't come overnight, because striving for something so lofty is subtler than the subtlest. So here we might well ask, how can I ever attain this? When I sit to meditate, my mind naturally becomes tranquil. But on other days, it becomes so restless that I cannot calm it, no matter how hard I try. Swami Brahmananda, the first president of the order and the spiritual son of Sri Ramakrishna, answers our doubts when he counseled one devotee who had the same problem. That is the play of the gunas, the three gunas, rajas, sattva, and tamas. The mind is subject to all three gunas. When the sattva guna becomes established through practice, the mind will always remain tranquil. He went on, you see there is an ebb and a flow in the tide of the Ganges. In the same way, there are ups and downs in everything. Meditation also has its ebb and flow. This is only in the early stage, however. Do not trouble about it. Stick to your practices. When you have practiced regularly for some time, there will be no longer any ebb and flow in the mind. There will be a smooth, unobstructed current flowing toward God. What are some examples of great devotion? When we think of Vivekananda, we think luminous intellect, penetrating insight, renunciation, manliness, self-control, the embodiment of Advaita Vedanta. These very qualities made him a great lover of God. They gave him a heart so vast that it embraced all of humanity, because what is Sat and Chit is also Ananda, love absolute. Swami Vivekananda himself said, Ramakrishna was all bhakti without, but within it was all jnana. I am all jnana without, but in my heart, all is bhakti. How did this come about, we might ask? Darshan, direct experience. It happened in spite of Naran's strong and resolute mind. It happened on his second visit to Dakshineshwar, when Sri Ramakrishna suddenly touched Naran and the walls and everything in the room vanished, and the whole universe, along with his individuality, began to merge in the great void. And Naran cried out, "What are you doing to me? I have my parents." And that was the time Ramakrishna unleashed superconscious channel within Naran. That was the time Naran became Sri Ramakrishna's disciple. Vivekananda's faith was sculpted with the chisel of reason and logic, and pounded out with a hammer of scientific inquiry. Vivekananda said, I doubted the master for 6 years. His doubts were, as it were, our doubts. But once convinced, his faith became indomitable, and so can ours. Naran's Brahmo, he belonged to the Brahmo Samaj, his Brahmo belief was in the formless God with attributes. He used to scoff with Hazra at Sri Ramakrishna's non-dual teachings. Can it ever be possible that a water pot and cup are God, and that everything we see and all of us are God? Ramakrishna overheard them. He approached and then touched Naran. Swami Vivekananda later said, I was aghast to realize that there really was nothing whatsoever in the entire universe but God. But still, Naran doubted Sri Ramakrishna. As a brain-sick baby always seeing visions, I hated it, but then I too had to accept Mother Kali, he later said. Naran's family suffered from dire poverty after his father's death. He originally was from a fairly well-off family, so he appealed to Ramakrishna. Since God listens to your prayer, he told Thakur, pray to Mother on behalf of my starving family. Ramakrishna refused. I can't make such demands on her. Besides, you suffer because you disregard her. But if you go to the Kali temple and ask any boon, it will be granted. So as Naran went, he became intoxicated. And behold, only the Divine Mother shone in his heart. He forgot everything and prayed instead for knowledge, devotion, and her unbroken vision. So Ramakrishna sent him back to the Kali temple 3 times. And each time he was overcome with the same ecstatic joy, until finally Sri Ramakrishna conceded, all right, your family will never be in want of plain food and clothing. Sri Ramakrishna lived only 2 years after he forged this union between Naran and Mother Kali. It was an extraordinary relationship with God that would take yet another even higher turn, but we're getting ahead of our story. Swami Vivekananda said, I loved him, you see, and that is what held me. I saw his marvelous purity. I felt his wonderful love. But Vivekananda's was a manly devotion, not fickle, so solid and unconditional it could withstand Sri Ramakrishna's tests. For more than 1 month, Ramakrishna ignored Narayan. Finally, he asked, "Why do you keep coming when I don't say a single word to you?" Narayan replied, "Do you think I come here just to talk with you? I love you. I come because I want to see you." Vivekananda's love was further fortified by his renunciation and willpower. These are the ingredients. Once Ramakrishna said, "Perhaps I'll transfer my powers to you so you can do Mother's work." Narayan asked, "Will they help me to realize God?" Ramakrishna answered, "No, but they'll be useful once you realize God and start doing his work." Narayan then said, "Let me realize God first. If I get these powers now, I might forget the whole purpose of my life." Just see the gigantic will and willpower. Sri Ramakrishna was extremely pleased. Narayan strengthened his heart vessel with his gargantuan will and self-control, and resisted any emotionalism in the name of devotion. He counseled devotees by saying an upsurge of emotion doesn't transform life or give one the power to resist lust and greed. There's no depth and therefore no value to it. But the higher and stronger the dam of self-control, the deeper spiritual emotion becomes. The direct disciples of Sri Ramakrishna observed the truth of Vivekananda's words and followed his example. Narayan was now ripe to become the embodiment of the highest devotion, Vijnana, the experience that comes after nirvikalpa samadhi, seeing God, luminous, loving consciousness everywhere. When Narayan made up his mind to become a monk, Sri Ramakrishna asked, "What do you want?" Narayan said, "My desire is to remain absorbed in samadhi for 3 or 4 days, coming down to the sense plane to just eat a little food." And Sri Ramakrishna replied, "You're a small-minded person. There is a state higher even than that. All that exists art thou. It is you who sing that song." Having pestered Sri Ramakrishna for nirvikalpa samadhi, finally he experienced it at Kasipur Garden House, a few days before the master's passing. Afterwards, Vivekananda presented himself before Sri Ramakrishna. "Now then, the mother has shown you everything," Thakur said. "Just as a treasure is locked up in a box, so will this realization you have just had be locked up, and the key shall remain with me. You have work to do. When you have finished my work, the treasure box will be unlocked again, and you will know everything then as you did just now." Such a statement is unique in religious history and prophetic. What was the so-called work he had to do? Ramakrishna saw Vivekananda was not just a Siddha Purusha, a perfected soul, but a savior of souls. This part of his divine mission manifested in worship of the living God, the means and the end of the experience higher than jnana, vijnana. Vivekananda imparted spirituality in the West, in this country. He established the Ramakrishna mission, which served and uplifted the sick, the poor, the plague-ridden, the uneducated in India, and with intensity that created a spiritual upheaval in the East and the West, and that also burned out his own health in the process. who was mother, who had shown him everything at the time of his nirvikalpa samadhi? None other than Sri Ramakrishna, who said, I and the mother have become one. Days before his Mahasamadhi, Sri Ramakrishna transmitted the force of his power into Naran. What does this mean? Swami Vivekananda inherited Ramakrishna's powers and states of consciousness. Filled with Sri Ramakrishna, he lived in the Ramakrishna Loka while performing his world mission. Sri Ramakrishna himself had prophesied that his powers would manifest in Vivekananda in time. There was no better commentator of Sri Ramakrishna's parables who could expound for days at a stretch such uncommon power of assimilation he had of the master's teachings. In his first visit to America, Vivekananda suffered exhaustion from his brutal schedule of 12 to 14 lectures per week. But he would hear a voice from a long distance, the contents of which he would repeat from the lecture platform the next day. He smiled when hosts asked, "With whom were you talking last night?" Vivekananda said, "I am an instrument and he is the operator. Through this instrument, he is awakening the spiritual consciousness in thousands of hearts in this far-off country," meaning America. Vivekananda's devotion to Sri Ramakrishna was the ultimate sacrifice. How could his experience of the Absolute be locked away for the Divine Mother's own purpose? What was the mechanism that brought Vivekananda back from the verge of nirvikalpa samadhi? It was an extraordinary sacrifice, not possible without extraordinary love. The secret is in this telling incident. After his first visit to the West, Vivekananda's brother monks objected to his Ramakrishna mission activities, that they didn't stress Sri Ramakrishna's emphasis on bhakti or the practice of sadhana for God realization. At first, Vivekananda retorted lightly, "What do you understand of religion? You are babies. Study, public preaching, and doing humanitarian works are, according to you, Maya, because Sri Ramakrishna did not do them himself. Because he said to someone, 'Seek and find God first. Doing good to the world is presumptuous.' As if God realization is such an easy thing to achieve," he said, "as if he is such a fool as to make himself a plaything in the hands of the imbecile." His brother monks were stunned. Vivekananda went on, "You think you understand Sri Ramakrishna better than myself. You think jnana is dry knowledge to be attained by a desert path, killing out the tenderest faculties of the heart. Your bhakti is sentimental nonsense which makes one impotent. Who cares for your Ramakrishna? Who cares for your bhakti and mukti? I am not the servant of Ramakrishna or anyone, but of him only who serves and helps others without caring for his own mukti." Vivekananda's voice became choked, his frame shook, and he ran from the room. His brother disciples were seized with fear, and they found Vivekananda seated in meditation, body stiff, tears flowing, absorbed in Bhava Samadhi. 1 hour later, he arose, washed his face, came out of the room. The atmosphere was tense. He said, "When one attains bhakti, one's heart and nerves become so soft and delicate that they cannot bear even the touch of a flower. I cannot think or talk of Sri Ramakrishna long without being overwhelmed. So I am trying and trying always to keep down the rush of bhakti welling within me. I am trying to bind and bind myself with the iron chain of jnana, for still my work is unfinished and my message to the world not yet fully delivered. I have work to do. I am a slave of Ramakrishna, who left his work to be done by me and will not give me rest till I have finished it. And oh, how shall I speak of him? Oh, his love for me. Peace, peace.